We had a significant breakthrough in large group conversation in 2000 when a lot of faculty and staff were gathered together trying to understand why the results our students were achieving weren't all that we had hoped for. And we were experiencing this sort of dissatisfaction with their results and wondering what we could do to change the conditions that would improve the student results. And one of the things that became clear to us is that the deep tradition in American higher education was an assumption that higher education is only for a few, and that only some people have the talent to do the things that we try to teach them. So some people are good at math and others aren't. Some people are good at learning foreign languages and others aren't. And it became apparent to us that that assumption was affecting the way we approach our practice, and that most of higher education had spent its energy sorting out the redbirds from the bluebirds from the blackbirds. But we believed something different, and actually the science of learning is on our side in this. What the science of learning says is that nearly everyone has all the essential biology to learn anything that we might teach at Valencia. Some might be a little more gifted, meaning quicker on the uptake in math, for example, or in music or something, but no one is deficient for learning anything that we have to teach if the conditions are right. And we coined that phrase, anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. And people will agree with that sometimes if you say it out loud to them, but deep down inside they probably don't agree with it, because about 60 or 70% of Americans believe that they are math disabled, that only some people could learn calculus. And most believe that only some people could learn to play the piano competently. And many Americans believe in particular that if you haven't learned a foreign language by a certain very young age, that part of your brain turns to stone and you can't really learn another language at an advanced age like mine. None of that, it turns out, is true. And so we coined this phrase, anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. Now, we don't really marshal the data to argue that case anymore because a story is much more powerful, it turns out, for changing culture. So here's the story behind it. A speaker at a conference, national conference, made that claim and described the science that underlies that claim. Following the conference, one of the participants in the conference came up and spoke to her and said, I loved how you said that anyone can learn anything under the right conditions, and I think it's true for most disciplines. And the speaker said, well, what is it you teach? And she said, well, I teach German, and it's a very difficult language to learn. It's non-intuitive, and the grammar and the syntax are all very, very difficult. And I can tell you, after teaching German for 15 years, there are some people who just can't learn German. And the speaker thought for a minute and said, well, how fortunate for them they weren't born in Germany. You see, it turns out that just about 100% of the people born and raised in Germany learn to speak German fluently. Now, that's not genetic. There's not a Deutsche gene. It just happens that the conditions for learning German are exceptional in Germany. And I could take nearly anyone from any country, drop them in Kitzbühel with 100 euros and say, I'll be back in 3 months, and they'll be speaking German when I pick them up. And that really reveals our biases about learning. It turns out that math is just another language. It's a set of symbols, and the code has to be cracked. But once you crack the code, the math itself is doable for most people. It turns out that music that's way. It turns out that almost everything we teach can be learned once you've cracked the code. So what's important about that working idea? It's this. We used to wonder who's going to succeed and who's not. Now we wonder what are the right conditions for each learner to succeed. And changing the conditions is different than measuring who's a winner and who's a loser. And so faculty began to focus on more powerful pedagogies that are adaptable to the differences among our learners and to partner with our learners so that they learn more. And we, as an institution, lost an excuse for poor results. It's not about the learners being incapable, it's about the conditions being wrong. Now, there are challenges in this. For example, students control a lot of the conditions, like showing up and doing the work that's assigned. But if we can partner with them and they'll hold up their end, we think we know enough about adult learning that we can create optimal conditions for many of the learners, and our results will increase dramatically. And that, in fact, has been our experience.